We've already had a lesson on reasoning strategies, but in that lesson, we went through problem solving guidelines. And in order to solve a problem, first you need to understand the problem, develop and carry out a plan, and then find the answer and check. Okay, that's a review of what we did. So you should already kind of have an understanding of this. So that's review. Now in this lesson, we're going to explore reasoning strategies. Now, if you're given a problem, you want to attack it with your problem-solving guidelines. You need to understand the problem. You need to develop and carry out a plan, and you need to find an answer to check. But when you develop and carry out a plan, sometimes you want to use different reasoning strategies. One of the strategies could be drawing a diagram or drawing a picture and labeling it and see if a visual might help you solve the problem. Another way is to make an organized list. You can take all the information that's given and organize it, and maybe then you'll be able to see the solution. You could look for a pattern. Sometimes there's patterns in the problem, and you'll be able to predict or tell what the answer is going to be. And the one we're going to explore today is the try, test, and revise. Sometimes you can try an answer first, test it, and then based on the answer, if it's not giving you the solution you want, then you can revise it and repeat, try, test, and revise again. Another way is to use logical reasoning. You can just think through a problem, and sometimes you can get the answer. You can simplify the problem. Sometimes there's unnecessary information, or it's posed in such a way that you can simplify it, and then it's easier to solve. You could write an equation. A lot of our word problems give you enough information to where you can write an equation and solve it that way. You could make a table, or you can start with the answer and work your way backward. Sometimes it's easier to start with what you want for the answer and work your way backwards to figure out what the solution is going to be. Okay, but to look at this one, try, test, and revise. Okay, for this example, we'll look at this problem here. 3 times x plus 7 divided by 2 equals 11. Okay, one way to figure out a solution could be just to try a number. We want to find x or solve for x. So we can say, well, what happens if x equals 8? So what happens if x equals 8? Okay, we can try that. That would be the first thing, try. So 3 times 8 plus 7 divided by 2 equals 11. So what we want to do is simplify the left side of the equation, or just simplify it in general and see if it ends up being a true statement. So if you remember with equations, if you do something to one side, you can do the exact same thing to the other. Or we can just simplify one side of the equation. Now let's try that. Let's say 3 times 8. Well, what's 3 times 8? Well, it's 24. 2 times 8 would be 16, and then you add another 8 to get 24. So 24 plus 7 over 2 equals 11. And then simplify it further. What's 24 plus 7? Well, that's 31. 31 over 2. Now, what's 31 divided by 2? I don't think it's 11, but let's see what it is. 31 divided by 2. Well, 2 goes into 3 once. So far, so good. And then you have a remainder of 11. Well, 2 goes into 11 5 times. And you're left with 1. So you're left with a remainder of 1/2. 15 and a half. So what this is saying is 15 and a half equals 11. Well, that's not a true statement. That's false. So we tried 8. We tried 8 for x, and it came back false, which means 8's not the solution. But did that tell us something? What did it tell us? Well, it told us that if you try 8 for x, you're going to get a value that's too large on the left side of the equation, right? 15 and a half is bigger than 11. So we could try maybe a number that's smaller than 8. So this is the part where we're revising. So first we tried, now we're going to revise. So we tried, then we tested, now we're going to revise. So we're revising. The 8 was too large, so our revision will be something smaller. So what happens if x equals something smaller? Let's say 4. What happens if x equals 4? Well, let's try it again. So we have 3 times 4 plus 7 over 2 equals 11. Well, 3 times 4 is 12. So I rewrote it with 12. And then 12 plus 7, well, that's 19. So it becomes 19 over 2 equals 11. Okay, now we have another problem here. 19 divided by 2. Well, that's not looking good. It's not looking like it's going to equal 11. But let's see what 19 divided by 2 is. So 19 divided by 2. 2 doesn't go into 1. Does 2 go into 19? Yeah, it goes in 9 times. 9 times 2 is 18. And you're left with a remainder of 1. So you can write that as 9 and 1/2. So you have 9 and 1/2 equals 11. Well, that's false. 9 and 1/2 does not equal 11. So if x equals 4 is going to be false. Okay, so we tried 8. That was too large. We tried 4. And that was too small, right? 9 and 1/2 is less than 11. It's not equal to 11. It's less than. So 8 was too large. 4 was too small. Now we can revise again, right? We tried, tested, then we had a revision. We tried 4 instead. Then we tried that. And we tested that. And now we have to revise again. So it's got to be something smaller than 8 but larger than 4. Let's try 5. Let's see what happens if it's 5. And I need a place to write here. So we have, well, here I'm going to rewrite the equation. 3x plus 7 over 2 equals 11. And we'll move over to the right. Okay, let's try if x equals 5. So what happens if x equals 5? Well, let's find out. Let's test it. So we have 3 times 5 plus 7 divided by 2 equals 11. Now 3 times 5, that's 15. So we have 15 plus 7 divided by 2 equals 11. And then 15 plus 7 is going to give us 22. 22 divided by 2 equals 11. This is looking a little more promising. Let's find out. What happens when we divide 22 by 2? Well, 22 divided by 2. 2 goes into 2 once. And 2 goes into the other 2 once. And you're left with 0. So you're left with 2 22 divided by 2 is 11. So that's true. We found our solution. We found it by using the try, test, revise strategy. And sometimes that works. Sometimes you can use the try, test, revise. Okay, so we found the solution. We tried one of the reasoning strategies. I won't get into the other strategies here. We'll just go over that one, and that should help you with some of the other ones. But now you know how to try, test, revise, and at least you've seen some of the other reasoning strategies, or at least heard about them.